One, two, three. Let's start the show.
We are living in a volatile political environment. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorable.
Come on, man.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Come on, man. And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It was a debate.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Deplorable Talk Show. You were here with Mr. Deplorable himself, Israel Perez. And a lot has happened last week in regards to protests, and when the left protests, the sane, peaceful protesters usually are on the ground first. But, once the crazy people learn that people are gathering, they come out and do shit like this.
Let the fucking terrorizing! Why motherfucking humanists? They terrorizing! Why fucking humanists? Get rid of your fucking businessness!
It's none of your businessness. Jesus.
He definitely aborts his baby.
He definitely fucks with abortion. Jesus. No, I'm willing to bet that lady has a child, and I feel bad for the dude who has to pay her child support, Anyway, so today's big lead topics will be about another high court leak, protests at the Supreme Court justice's home, insurrection/terrorism, pro-life organizations being set on fire, politicians calling for violence and supporting law-breaking protesters. But before we get into any of that, let's get into a segment called Trending. Trump was too liberal. Tweet. So, in this segment, we will be looking at what was trending last week on Twitter. The good, the bad, the ugly, mostly the ugly because it's social media. So, our first trending topic of the day was Tony Montana. And when I saw this pop up on my feed on Twitter as trending, I was kind of nervous because I was really hoping they weren't remaking the movie Scarface. It's a classic. You don't need to remake it. But when I did click on it, what I saw was a little bit more upsetting than that. So, Tony Montana is the name of a K-pop rapper. And this is what he sounds like. Whoop, whoop. We're done there. That's all we need to hear. Kind of upsetting. Hot take. Mumble rap needs to die. It's already gone too far. It's now influencing the K-pop scene. And if that means it's influencing the K-pop scene, that means it's here to stay. And I don't like it. Don't like it. It could be because I'm getting old. I'm getting older. It's like, I just don't understand what those youngins are out there listening to. I just don't understand it. I like the good music, the good old music, the good days of hip hop. That could be it, right? I don't know. I just don't like it. Anyways, the next trending topic I saw, no, it kind of made my day when I saw it, was hashtag Ultra MAGA. And the reason this was trending, and the reason this was trending because Biden the other day said this.
Look, the bottom line is this. Americans have a choice right now between two paths, reflecting two very different sets of values. My plan attacks inflation and grows the economy by lowering costs for working families, giving workers well-deserved raises, reducing the deficit by historic levels, and making big corporations and very wealthy Americans pay their fair share. The other path is the Ultra MAGA plan put forward by congressional Republicans to raise taxes on working families, lower the income of American workers, threaten sacred programs Americans count on like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and give break after break to big corporations and billionaires.
Oh.
Just like they did the last time they were in power.
Whatever you say, buddy. Whatever you say. That's okay because the Ultra MAGA is here. Right? We're here to stay. You know, and of course, the Ultra MAGA couldn't help but do what we do best. And that's shitpost with memes. And here are 3 memes I thought were hella funny. And I don't like the fact that I said hella, but I did. So the first tweeted meme I liked was from Ultra MAGA Nick. I voted for Raise the Bar, hashtag Ultra MAGA. And it is a meme that has a tier of people, and the top tier is obviously Trump, and it says raise the bar. The second person underneath Trump is Kamala. It says failed the bar. Underneath Kamala is AOC, says worked at a bar. Underneath that is Pelosi, lives at the bar. Underneath Pelosi is Biden, can't spell the bar. And then underneath Biden is Hillary Clinton, and it says should be behind bars. Awesome. I love it. All right. And then the next tweeted meme I liked was from License to Smirk. And it says, give me some of that Ultra MAGA. And if, of course, it is of the Planeteer summoning Captain Planet. And it's has the them kind of cropped out here. And the Asian girl from Planet of the Planeteers says parental rights. The redheaded dude says no new wars. Obviously the Indian guy is lower crime. The black guy is secure borders, and the blonde girl is lower taxes. And together they come together to summon Ultra MAGA, which is Trump. Creative. And my third and last tweet that I saw that I think needs to, was just funny was from the Twitter handle Right to Bear Memes. And it is a picture of a kid wearing an Ultra MAGA hat and passing a note to President Biden. And on the note, it says, and here, let me get this list a little bit bigger here, huh? Here's my promise to you. If I'm elected president, I will always choose to unite rather than divide. I'll take responsibility instead of blaming others. I'll never forget that the job isn't about me. It's about you. Yeah, you've done a good job so far, huh, Joe? You know, you definitely divided America by alienating half of America as Ultra MAGA. Keep on doing what you're doing, Joe. And this concludes the segment trending. Trump was too liberal. Tweet.
On the shoulder. You adjust the microphone as you talk, man. With a gracious aid.
All right, on to the next segment. So, summer is approaching, guys, and it seems like every spring Antifa and the Marxist left are recruiting new members in preparation for the inevitable summer protests. You know, it makes me wonder, how do Antifa and the Marxist left recruit? You know, I bet they pass out flyers that say, "Do you feel like capitalism is holding you down? Do you hate your fascist employer? Do you wish that everyone would just share their wealth with you?" If you answered yes to these questions, then join our Marxist training camps. At these camps in a liberal city near you, you will be taught the way of the Marxists, and upon completion of training, you will get a complimentary pair of black boots, pants, tee, and spray paint. With that statement, this brings us to Marxism Wants You. Man, that song just inspires me to want to go out and burn down some buildings. You know, it kind of feels like they have some type of a recruiting system like that, you know, with how big of numbers they have every fucking spring. You know, come May Day, out in full force. But realistically, they probably, the way they recruit is they probably just splunk through existential philosophy subreddits and chans, looking for kids that just read The Concept of Man, you know, posting quotes from Karl Marx like, "History repeats itself, first as a tragedy, second as a farce," or "The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people." No, which I get why young kids fall into the existential way of thinking. You know, growing up sucks and the world seems to be against you. But what do groups that recruit young Marxists exploit? The fact that they are young and take things at face value. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves, you know, to contribute to the common good of the people, even if that means sacrificing yourself as an individual. No, and I guarantee you that's why Marxism is so popular amongst my generation and Generation Z. No, and that's the flaw of taking something at face value. Because if you really looked into Karl Marx, you would find he was a disgusting, evil individual. And, you know, all we have to do is look at his early writings before Das Kapital in 1867, you know, the greatest hits. You know, and here's an essay written in 1843 titled "The Jewish Question." So in this essay, it starts off, and let me just go up here to make sure I'm on the right thing here. Man, it's a long essay, guys. So on the Jewish question. So in this essay, it starts off with the German Jew desires emancipation. What kind of emancipation do they desire? Civic, political emancipation. So in this essay, Marx is criticizing Bruno Bars. I think that's how you say his last name, Bauer. Let me just making sure I'm still recording here. So he's criticizing his thesis that religion has no place within the progress of the state. In order for the state to make progress, the individual must abolish religious thought because an individual must work for the progress of the state and not his religious ideals. And Marx argues that the removal of religious ideals does not help the state in its progress, but hinders it. Allowing individuals to separate the state and religion promotes state progress because religious ideals promote individual advancement, which leads to state advancement. Now, that's what I gathered from this lengthy essay. And mind you, there's a lot more in it than just that. There's a lot of comparing the Jewish faith to the Christianity faith. and basically saying it's a lesser faith because Christianity has already answered a lot of the questions that the Jewish faith has asked, in a sense. It's basically saying it's a barbaric faith and thus makes Jewish barbaric people, which I don't agree with. But when looking at the essay, you can't help but agree with Marx's assumption that the Jewish population can keep their religious ideal and exist as an individual and still help the progress of the state. And on further reading, Marx says something that would make the present day anti-Semitic cringe. So let's get down here. So he says, we are trying to break with the theological formulation of the question. For us, the question of the Jews' capacity for emancipation becomes the question: what particular social element has to be overcome in order to abolish Judaism? For the present-day Jews' capacity for emancipation is the relation of Judaism to the emancipation of the modern world. This relation necessarily results from the special position of Judaism in the contemporary enslaved world. Let us consider the actual worldly Jew, not the Sabbath Jew, as Bauer does, but the everyday Jew. Let us not look for the secret of the Jew in his religion, but let us look for the secret of his religion in the real Jew. Jesus. What is the secular basis of Judaism? Practical need, self-interest. What is the worldly religion of the Jew? Huckstering. What is his worldly god? Money. Very well then. Emancipation from huckstering and money, consequently from practical real Judaism, would be the self-emancipation of our time. An organization of society which would abolish the preconditions for huckstering, and therefore the possibility of huckstering, would make the Jew impossible. His religious consciousness would be dissipated like a thin haze in real life. Vital air of society. Sorry, I thought it was a pause there. On the other hand, if the Jew recognizes that this particular nature of his futile and works to abolish it, he extricates himself from his previous development and works for human emancipation as such, and turns against the supreme practical expression of human self-estrangement. Yeah, I think I said that right. We recognize in Judaism, therefore, a general antisocial element of the present day, an element which, through historical development, to which in this harmful respect the Jews have zealously contributed, has been brought to its present high level, at which it must necessarily begin to disintegrate. In the final analysis, the emancipation of the Jews is the emancipation of humankind from Judaism. The Jew has already emancipated himself in a Jewish way. Jesus, dude. Jesus. So, what I gathered from that is Marx basically said that Judaism is no longer a faith, but a political ideology. The Jew focuses on self-progress and wealth and uses religion to try to separate themselves from the state for their own personal gain. Thus, there is no need for Bauer's argument because Judaism does not exist anymore. All that exists is a huckster society that will annihilate himself. Hot take. Hot take, Marx. Now, mind you guys, Marx is German, and it seems that anti-Semitism runs deep in the German lineage. Just saying. But it doesn't stop there with Marx. So, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848, and since then they had parted ways, but kept up communications. In a letter from Marx to Friedrich, written in 1862, Marx wrote, and mind you guys, he throws the N-word around in here several times, and we're going to replace that word with the word Nancy. So let's give this a read, huh? So in this letter to Dear Engels, and I have him highlighted right here as well. The Jewish Nancy Lassel, and I forget who it is. I think he's a politician. I'm glad to say is leaving at the end of this week. Has happily let me just reread that again, huh? The Jewish Nancy Lassel, who I'm glad to say is leaving at the end of this week, has happily lost another 5,000 tailors in an ill-judged speculation. The chap would sooner throw money down the drain than lend it to a friend, even though his interest and capital were guaranteed. In this, he bases himself on the view that he ought to live the life of a Jewish baron, or Jew-created a baron, no doubt by the countess. Okay. And then later on in this letter, he continues, "It's not quite plain to me, as the shape of his head and the way his hair grows also testify, that he is a descendant from the Negroes who accompanied Moses' flight from Egypt, unless his mother or parental grandmother interbreded with a Nancy. Now, this blend of Jewishness and Germanness on the one hand, and basic Nancy stock on the other, must inevitably give rise to a peculiar product. The fellow's impunity is also Nancy-like." Nope. Jesus. Scholars would say Marx and Engels were Europeans of the 19th century, and that period of time, racism was commonplace and permitted in political, scientific, religious, literature, and social spheres. But when it comes to Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and Abraham Lincoln, their racism cannot be tolerated. Get rid of their statues, but keep the teachings of Karl Marx in our academics, right? Anyways, to put the icing on the cake here, here's one more from Karl Marx, and this is from the News Herald. And the article reads, Walter E. Williams, did you know that Karl Marx was a racist and anti-Semite? Yeah. And it continues down here to say, Marx is a hero to many labor union leaders and civil rights organizations, including leftist groups like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and some Democratic leaders. It is easy to be a Marxist if you know little of his life. Marx's predications about capitalism and the withering away of the state turned out to be grossly wrong. What most people don't know is that Marx was a racist and an anti-Semite. When the U.S. annexed California after the Mexican-American War, Marx wrote, quote, "Without violence, nothing is ever accomplished in history." Then he asked, quote, "Is it a misfortune that the magnificent California was seized from the lazy Mexicans who did not know what to do with it?" Frederick Engels added, "In America, quote, in America, we have witnessed the conquest of Mexico and have rejoiced at it. It is to the interest of its own development that Mexico will be placed under the tutelage of the United States." Let's end this out, huh? And let me say, I'm not against making fun of stereotypes. I do it all the time. And I'm not against using racially motivated jokes. All right. I work in blue collar jobs, and a lot of people do it. It helps bring an even playing field to the diverse group of the working force that is working there. So for me to call Karl Marx a racist because of the correspondence with his friend would be hypocritical. People talk differently when talking to people they actually know. However, having ideals that exclude a race or using your ideals to exploit a race you believe is less than you is wrong. And Karl Marx is a racist for spreading that thought process. So the fact that these activist groups like Black Lives Matter and academics like Kimberly Crenshaw use Marxism to fuel their agenda and claim that our political society is a racist society that is keeping people of color down is wrong. They are being they're being hypocritical zealots. That's what it is. It's hypocrisy. They're using a racist ideology to tell people that they're racist. Hypocritical zealots. If that's a word, or did I just make that shit up? Anyways, if you feel like Karl Marx has resonated with you, there will be an Antifa riot going on in the cities of Seattle, Portland, or the entirety of California, so don't hesitate to join the cause. Song's so empowering, right? Anyways, so this brings us to the big lead for today. Another high court leak has happened. No, the Supreme Court needs to clean house, in my opinion. That's one leak too many. And if you have a rat problem, you call an exterminator. Now, I'm not calling for violence with that statement, but maybe they should find out who is hurting the integrity of the Supreme Court and fire them. You know? Randy Marsh from South Park has more integrity than the Supreme Court currently.
Well, I hope you didn't pack your integrity, because clearly your integrity ain't going.
Goddamn right, Randy. So, MSNBC writes, another high court leak suggests Roe v. Wade is in deep trouble. And let's scroll down here a little bit. So the Washington Post had a related report over the weekend. And while it wasn't quite as dramatic as the leak of the draft decision, it was nevertheless based on internal high court decisions that are supposed to be kept private. A person close to the, and this is the writings from the Washington Post. A person close to the most conservative members of the court said Chief Justice John Roberts told his fellow jurists in private conference in early December that he planned to uphold the Mississippi anti-abortion law at issue in Dobbs and write an opinion that left Roe and Casey in place for now, but the other conservatives were more interested in an opinion that overturned the precedents, the person said. Now, this means that Justice Roberts was willing to vote to let the Mississippi anti-abortion law stand if the other justices left Roe alone, which to me shows that Roe needs to be overturned because Roe is there to make sure states let women abort up to the first trimester, which is 12 weeks. So the Supreme Court, under the ruling of Roe, should have shot down the Mississippi law of no abortion after 15 weeks. It shouldn't be used as a bargaining chip. If a law can be contradicted and used as a bargaining chip, it's a bad law. So, this leak that we're just talking about right now added to the flames of unrest already happening, which led to protesters organizations showing up to Justice Roberts' house. And here's a clip of them doing just that.
Keep abortion safe and legal. You don't care if people die. You don't care if people die. You don't care if people die.
You know, and these same organizers walked a couple blocks down to Justice Kavanaugh's house and did the same thing.
We will not go back. I see you, buddy. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back.
And also the same organizers showed up to Justice Alito's house as well. And I'm sure there's video of that. I just don't want to, beat the dead horse here with these videos. So the organization was called Ruth Sent Us. And I'm sorry to tell them, and I'm sorry to tell everybody else that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did not like Roe. She thought it was a bad law. You know, in my opinion, I think she would have been for the overturning of Roe. So the Washington Post writes, Justice Ginsburg thought Roe was the wrong case to settle abortion issues. Okay. And if we scroll down here to the meat and potatoes of this, Jeffrey R. Stone, a professor and former dean of the University of Chicago Law School, who conducted the 2013 discussion with Ginsburg, said in an email this week that a main source of her concern about Roe was that it went too far too fast. She felt that a more incremental approach would be less likely to trigger what became the extreme political opposition to Roe, he said. Ginsburg made a similar argument in 1992, a few months before President Clinton nominated her to the Supreme Court. Doctrinal limbs to swiftly shaped experience teaches may prove unstable. The most prominent example in recent decades is Roe v. Wade, Ginsburg said at a New York University law lecture. A less encompassing Roe, one that merely struck down the extreme Texas law and went no further on that day, might have served to reduce rather than to fill controversy, she added. From 1971 to 1982, she said the High Court invalidated state and federal laws for violating due process or equal protection principles. The Supreme Court wrote modestly, it put forward no grand philosophy, but by requiring legislative reexamination of once customary sex-based classifications, the court helped to ensure that laws and regulations would reflect a changing world, she said, according to her prepared remarks. She added, Roe v. Wade, in contrast, invited no dialogue with legislators. Instead, it seemed to entirely remove the ball from the legislative courts. In 1973, when Roe v. Wade was issued, abortion law was in a state of change across the nation. As the Supreme Court itself noted, there was a marked trend in state legislators towards liberalization of abortion statutes. So, I don't know about but it sounds like she thought it hindered the progress of abortion rather than help push it forward. And I don't disagree with her. I think it's really hard to sit there and say that to put abortion within the 14th Amendment, because at some point you're dealing with two lives and not one. And if you want to argue viability, that's a whole other argument in that, and it opens up a whole different chest of things to argue about. When's the baby actually viable, if you want to make that argument? But let's move on here. On May 9th, Jen Psaki was asked a question from an AP reporter about the protest being against the law and what was the administration's position on it. And here's a clip of her getting asked that question.
You suggested that peacefully protesting outside the homes of judges and Supreme Court justices is part of freedom of expression and part of what we do in the United States. But there's a law in Virginia that actually prohibits protest outside private residence, even when it's done peacefully. So I'm wondering if any sort of demonstrations outside of private homes might run afoul of that law and other laws like it in other parts of the country.
We're certainly not suggesting anyone break any laws. I would note that the president's view has long been, and I tweeted this earlier this morning and repeated and made a number of these comments last week as well, that violence, threats, and intimidation have no place in political discourse. Yes, we are a country that promotes democracy, and we certainly allow for peaceful protest in a range of places in the country. None of it should violate the law. No one is suggesting that. And it should never resort to violence, to threats, to intimidation in any way, shape, or form.
None of it should violate the law. Okay. Then why are the organizers of Ruth Sent Us not in jail? They broke the law by not only publicating on social media the address of the Supreme Court justices' houses, but encouraged people to show up and break the law as well. So, Law 18 U.S.C., I don't know what the double S there means, 1507 U.S. Code, Unanointed Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedures, 1507, Picketing and Parading, says, whoever, with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, or in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device, or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. Nothing in this section shall interfere with or prevent the exercise by any court of the United States of its power to punish for contempt. Why are they not in jail? Most of the insurrectionists who were at the Capitol are being charged with violating Code 40 U.S. 15104, which bans parade, demonstrate or picket in any of the Capitol buildings. And most of them were additionally charged with Code 18 U.S. Code 1512, tampering with the witness, victim, or informant, and which prohibits protest, otherwise obstruct, influence, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so. These protesters were at the justice's house in hopes to influence an official proceeding. Why are they not being charged? If these protesters were conservative, you would be hearing nonstop of how these right-wing extremists are trying to end our democracy, and the Democratic Party would be trying to swing the big dick of the law in their direction, arresting anyone that was part of these protests. Rules for thee, but not for me. Here's another video of Psaki giving a statement on behalf of the president later that day about the rioters outside of the justice's home. And it's kind of concerning because they kind of walk back what they said earlier in their last clip. Let's give that a watch.
So I know that there's an outrage right now, I guess, about protests that have been peaceful to date, and we certainly continue to encourage that outside of judges' homes, and that's the president's position. But the silence is pretty deafening about all of the other intimidation that we've seen to a number.
We certainly continue to encourage that outside of judges' homes. As long as they are peaceful, we know they are breaking the law, but we don't care about it because it's supporting our agenda. Cool. What happens if they do get violent? Will the president be held accountable for conspiracy? No. Will Psaki be held accountable for any of the words that she has said? No. Will, mayors like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago be held accountable for what she's tweeting? To my friends in the LGBTQ plus community, the Supreme Court is coming for us next. This moment has to be a call to arms. And then she then added to her tweet, "We will not surrender our rights without a fight to victory." That sounds like incitement to me. They've been going after Trump and everybody else for tweets like that. But, at least the activists haven't been violent so far. Left-wing militants torch pro-life organizations' office with Molotov cocktails. Sounds like it's getting violent, huh? The Madison, Wisconsin headquarters of a pro-life organization has been vandalized with Molotov cocktails. Vandals set fire to the Wisconsin Family Action Office earlier Sunday morning. 2 staff returned to the office Sunday morning to find graffiti writing on the wall saying, quote, "If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either." There was a shattered glass from a broken window covering the corner office, and books and furniture had been tossed over and thrown around. Graffiti also depicted a coded anti-police slogan. And there's a video, but we're not going to watch it. But here's a couple of the tweets. There's them doing that. And obviously, A for Anarchy. A for Anarchy. Jesus. You know. Now, and that's not just a one-off thing. You know, in Oregon, they tried to do the same thing, but they just didn't have the arm. Oregon pro-life headquarters firebombed in targeted attack. So, they write, the Oregon Right to Life building in Kaiser, Oregon was damaged on Sunday after 2 Molotov cocktails were thrown towards the building in a targeted attack following the SCOTUS draft leak ruling that could overturn Roe v. Wade. Although the damage to the building was minimal, Lois Anderson, executive director of Oregon Right to Life, said that she was thankful no one was hurt during the firebombing. No, there's a picture right there. Jesus. Dude, they threw 2 and couldn't land it into the window. They couldn't get it into the building. Look where it landed. Oh, man. No, if that was me, hypothetically, I would have at least went up and broke a fucking window. You know? It's fucking pathetic. All right. Well, let's end the segment on a fun note, huh? So, let's get this up here. Pro-choice demonstrators protest outside Pelosi's home. Says she's being complicit. No, this just shows you that bending over backwards for the woke mob gets you nowhere. And here's a clip of them outside of her house.
We're here because Nancy Pelosi and the whole leadership of the Democratic Party has been complicit with the fascist Republican Party that wants to not only eliminate abortion rights, but gay marriage, trans rights, and a whole slew of rights.
A whole slew of rights, huh? And I paused it there because somebody goes, boo. You know, man, this is just the thing. Is they go out and protest, but when they actually have a voice and people are there paying attention, they have no substance behind their argument. You know, she had a chance to argue her point of view, but she just yelled talking points with no thought process behind it. That's why she was getting caught up in a whole slew of things. It's like, fucking quit it. You're out there protesting and you don't even know what the fuck you're protesting about. You know, I guarantee you if somebody were to go up and have a conversation with her about why she's really out there, it would just be the same talking points like that. We think women have a right to choose. Why do you think that? Because they should have a right to choose. It's a constitutional right. But why? Well, because they have a right to choose. Okay, all right, sounds good. You have no substance behind your argument. Sounds good. Fuck. Anyways, that concludes the big lead for this episode. So let's close this out with some news that didn't make the cuts, but I feel is still worth mentioning. In our last segment for the day, called Honorable Mentions. Yeah, the kids love it. So, our first honorable mention for the day. Sorry. Vicky, a person called Vicky White. Let's bring this up. Alabama corrections officer who escaped with inmate has died in hospital, sheriffs say. Vicky White, who was the corrections officer, died from his self-inflicted gunshot wounds. I guess you can say she found herself at the wrong end of the gun, huh? Jesus. It's a bad joke. I'm sorry, guys. All right, our next one. In Mexico, 2 journalists are killed, 10th and 11th of the year. The killing of Yesenia and Sheila took place in the Gulf Coast state of Veracruz. Like most victims, the journalists worked for a small local outlet. So here's my hot take on this. If you become the 12th victim, I believe you knew what you were getting yourself into. Okay? In Mexico, journalists have crossed the line between being victims and becoming statistics. There's nothing on this shit, guys. It's just all for fun. All right, let's get to our next story. Bitcoin tumbles more than 50% below its all-time high as crypto plunges again. You know, and if you haven't already, I think it's time to double down, guys. Buy the dip. You know, I'm not a professional here, but I lost tons of money in Dogecoin. You want to know what I did? I threw $500 more back in. So, just saying. Diamond hands, bitches. All right, our next one. Of course, they popped up in the news again. They always do, you know. Anyways. BLM co-founder admits she held parties at mansion bought with donor funds. So, Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors, I think that's how you say her first name, admitted in an Associated Press interview she spent overnights and hosted multiple personal events at the group's controversial Malibu mansion. Cullors' statement comes after she claimed to have never misappropriated funds related to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. So, Patrisse and everyone else who collaborated with her should be charged with embezzlement and domestic terrorism. My opinion. All right, next one up. This is a doozy. A South Carolina man died from a heart problem while burying the woman he strangled, deputies say. Well, a 60-year-old man strangled a woman and tried to bury her in the backyard of a South Carolina home, but had a cardiac event in the process of covering a pit and died, according to news released from the Inglefield County Sheriff's Office. Talk about karma, right? All right, and our last one for today, people. This one just made me upset when I read it. It's like it just popped up on my Twitter feed. I'm just like, Jesus, you're reaching, MSNBC, reaching. Pandemic fitness trends have gone extreme, literally. White supremacists' last chance to valorize violence and hypermasculinity has gone digital. It appears the far right has taken advantage of pandemic at-home fitness trends to expand its decades-plus radicalization of physical mixed martial arts and combat sports spaces. No. Just no. You know, this had to go by an editor's desk. Who the fuck thought this was like, oh yeah, it's a great story, good op-ed, man. It's gonna really turn some heads. Fuck out of here. Upsetting. It's upsetting. All right, well, that ends the show, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button and definitely subscribe. If you do subscribe, make sure to ring that bell. I upload every Monday, and well, no, what? That's not true anymore. It's just going to be every week. Every 2 episodes every week. I should be on track this week. I'm doing this all by myself, so it's just been hard just juggling everything, but it's coming to fruition. But anyways, you can watch the Deplorable Talk Show on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and well, not Twitch yet, but it's gonna get there. You can listen to the Deplorable Talk Show on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Stitcher. You can find links in the description below. If you go to my website, thedeplorablent.com, you can find the most recent episodes and links to wherever you want to watch the show at. It's just the general hub. I will be putting up show notes at some point. A friend of mine that was watching, he was just like, you said that you could put up show notes, but I went to your website and it wasn't there. I'm just like, I'm by myself. But he's right. He's right. He went to because he wanted to see what the fuck I was talking about because he doesn't agree with me politically. That's okay. And I should have those up, especially if I want to be doing news. It's just been I've been trying to get the show together, so it's coming. Trust me, I'll have those up. Also, stay tuned for live streams. They will be happening soon. I'm figuring out what's going on with my computer when it comes to the video game that I want to play. But they will be happening soon. It should be happening on Fridays and Saturdays. I'll probably be going live, probably on Fridays at noon, probably for 6 hours. And then I'll be going at a later time on Saturday. So that way, my friends can join in and play some video games with me and you guys can watch. But, take care, guys. I'll see you on the next episode. And, I hope you have a great day.